Welcome back to American Agenda. Well, as we await President Biden's arrival in Brownsville, Texas, he is expected to touch down in approximately 20 minutes. For his speech later today, we're going to bring in our guest to discuss the politics of the president's trip. Democratic analyst Jonathan Harris joins us, and we're welcome back Charles Marino as well. All right, Jonathan, we're going to start with you here. How important is it for the Biden administration to focus on the border issue in the upcoming general election? It seems like something that has pretty much been ignored for the better part of 3 years, but all of a sudden now that November is coming rapidly, the border suddenly seems to be a hot topic for them.
Well, I would say that the first thing is it's important to point out that neither side has ever resolved the border issue. The border has never been sealed, no matter which political party you're talking about, no matter what president you're talking about. So there's neither side that gets to stand on some soapbox here and say, oh, well, I have this issue resolved. You should just do what I did. So then what we're talking about is just varying degrees of a problem that has existed, throughout my lifetime. Trump did not solve the border. The surge at the border started in 2018 when he was president. And so what has happened since then is the numbers have gone up and down, but the border has never been sealed. I think it's very important for Biden to point that out and to point out that there was a bipartisan deal that even the border union supported, which is a conservative leaning union, that they supported, and that Republicans shot it down because Trump told them to. So at that point, you have to point out that it is either something that Trump just wants to campaign on and not a problem that he wants to solve, or there's a problem in the Republican Party, and President Biden should absolutely be pointing that out.
Jonathan, you're right that it's not been sealed under the Trump administration, but there are record numbers right now under the Biden administration. Charles, I want to bring you into this conversation. Your thoughts on that? It's never really been sealed. Both sides agree that it's a broken problem. When addressing it today, who's going to have the better message?
I think what we have to agree on here, because it's a fact, is that whether we're talking about Republican or Democrat administrations, no administration has walked away from the border security and immigration like this administration. You can go back and look at the remarks of Bill Clinton, President Obama. I mean, President Obama was given the nickname from immigration advocacy groups as the deporter-in-chief. I actually worked at the Department of Homeland Security as a career official under President Obama and dealt with the border. We were deporting almost 500,000 people a year. There was enforcement of the laws. And look, it is a fair point to say that President Biden is going to bring up the border union's support of the Senate bill. I've come out very early when they did that and said that was a huge mistake. There is no bill that's necessary to start securing that border today. And I think, as the congressman was previously saying, that if Biden comes out with executive orders, then he loses all credibility even further, because he has already come out and said, one, that the border's secure, and that he's done everything to secure it possible.
Jonathan, do you agree with what Charles said there? Do you think that it would be a disaster and the wrong move strategically for Biden to issue executive orders on the border, or is that something you anticipate he will do?
We don't know. We really don't know. But the truth of the matter is,
should he do it?
No, I think he's gone the right path. I think these are Band-Aids. An executive order is a Band-Aid. What he has done by introducing or telling Republicans and Democrats that he will sign legislation is to say, I don't want to do a Band-Aid. I want to solve the problem. And when Republicans asked for things that are in those bills, and then he says, I'll sign it into law, and they immediately back away from it, it is crystal clear to everyone that this was a game of politics so that Trump has something to campaign on going into November. Because if it was actually a crisis and President Biden says he will resolve it, and then they back away, then you have to ask yourself why. So no, executive orders are a Band-Aid. Whether he does it or not, he's saying, I want legislation to solve this problem. It's the same thing that happened with President Obama. He had bipartisan immigration reform ready to go, and Republicans didn't want it. Reagan handed out amnesty to illegal immigrants, and that was the Republican God prior to Trump. And so there's a responsibility that Republicans bear here to be honest about what they've done and the part that they've played in this. And so whether Biden chooses to use the Band-Aid of executive orders or not, the legislation needed to solve the problem is stalled because of Republicans, period.
One would argue that the executive orders, though, would put a pause on things, at least until things can be sorted out between both parties.
That's what I'm saying. It's a Band-Aid. And I don't understand why Republicans who seem obsessed with this issue are not looking at elected officials and asking why they are not putting forward a bill, getting it on President Biden's desk that has everything in it that they asked for, unless it's to play politics with this, in which case it's not true. It's a joke.
All right. Well, you have to.
Well, we also have HR 2 that's been lingering for over a year already, passed by the House, which Fetterman just came out and said he would support the overwhelming majority of that. So Democrats are waking up here. I mean, let's not be disingenuous. This Senate border bill did nothing but throw billions of dollars at this problem and solve nothing.
All right. Well, we have to leave it there. A great conversation from both of you. Jonathan Harris, thank you so much for joining us. Charles Mariano, you're sticking around.